Hello. Today's training is going to go over the iCue Manager. iCue Manager is premised on you already having an account hierarchy set up within Map Center and fields added to your account. If you have not done so yet, please refer to the Map Center training. So, to get to iCue Manager, we go to our front page, www.satshot.com, and up at the top we are going to go to Menu and iCue Manager, and over on the left side we have Login to iCue, and what it will do is it will reroute you to www.satshot.com/iCue-manager. For most of you, you may want to store this as a favorite. And with that, if you will log in with your user credentials. So what is iCue Manager? iCue Manager is a geospatial email for your field boundaries, in that when any new satellite imagery is made available for your fields, we will notify you at your request. So what we'll first go through is up on the top right we have a menu, and we have 5 primary sections and a logout. First, and the one that is selected, is notifications. This is what you will see by default every time you log in. This is where all of your notifications that have been created for the fields you have set to notify will be. Next in the list is Time Machine. So we'll go over that in depth. Is if you do not yet have a notification or you want to create one yourself for a field or set of fields, you're able to go to Time Machine and choose the date range and scene sources for which you want to create a notification for. The next thing is Notifiers. This will be the section that tells iCue what fields you actually want to notify. Subscribe your fields. This is the section where you will enroll your fields into a reduced analysis rate. And finally, Settings. You will set up and choose within iCue Manager how you want those notifications to run your analyses. And let's actually start here in Settings. So, over on the left side here, we have 3 primary sections and then a 4th where we clear the local database. This is essentially the equivalent of clearing your browser's cache for website data. However, when you click on it, it will simply remove any locally stored notifications we have saved for your account in this browser. It does not delete them, it just removes them from the local storage. But going back up to notifications, the options on the right here determine the frequency at which you will receive a given iCue notification. By default, everyone will be set to daily, and the time of day will typically be 1 p.m. I have updated mine to 6 a.m. Let's move it back to 1 p.m. for this. You'll notice that if any change is made, up on the top right, just below Menu, you will see a green check mark light up. This is the Universal Submit button within iCue Manager. If you select anything or choose anything or make a change that needs to be added or addressed at the server, you will commit that change here. For some of you, you may not see this auto trigger button. Auto trigger is something that you will want to contact a Satshot representative for. What it will do is it will automatically run your jobs to completion when you get a new notification of imagery. We'll go over that in depth in another tutorial, but if you do not see it, do not worry, and I will not actually cover it in this training today. Outside of that, when a notification is delivered, not only will it be compiled every day at 1 o'clock if there are any new imagery available for the fields you're interested in being notified of, it will also send you an email at the address associated with your user account of the information within that notification. The next panel is iCue analysis presets. We'll go over this in depth. We'll come back. What does this actually mean? When we have an iCue notification, we will want to run that, run the imagery within that notification to completion. These are the presets for which you can submit all of those fields within the notification, and it will return you an analysis based on the presets here. I am, say for instance, interested in the NDVI red and the NIR, creating a 31 zone equal interval with the Satshot standard, that's this table here, for my classification analysis. I will submit that change. My account is updated. Pretty straightforward. If we have questions on that, please feel free to contact Satshot at any time. And add credits. Pretty straightforward. 1 credit to $1 US. You will add the information here. The green check mark, once the information is filled, will highlight, and you can add your credits right within iCue Manager. That's useful for analysis, subscription, and export. So, what does a notification look like? Well, we don't have any organically created for us, and we don't have any fields yet set to notify, but let's go and create one. And to do that, we go to Time Machine. And we'll notice on the left here, this is where we have our group hierarchy, lists, and again, this is based on the premise that you have already set up your account in Map Center. You'll have your group hierarchy on the left and all of the fields associated with each group. And when we select on one, we will see the region and field information on the right. Note that if you are using Firefox, the previews on the left will not render. Otherwise, you should be good to go. Outside of that, once we find the fields that we're interested in finding new imagery for, or imagery that has been archived, let's say for instance, I want to go and look for this field. I want to see new imagery available. I will click on the green check mark if I have a selection made. I will choose the image date range that I'm interested in and the scene sources. In this case, I'm going to go all satellites. Let's go ahead and run Time Machine. So what it's going to do is it's going to ask Satshot, hey, for this field selected, give me all imagery going back to June 1, 2014 through today. Give me all sources of data. Now what you'll notice here is it brings you back to the notification panel on the front page. How do we know that? Because of this little icon right here. You'll notice in this menu that we have an icon next to each section. This will determine what part of the iCue Manager you are in. We bring you back to the notification panel after a Time Machine is run, because this is where we will receive that notification. And once the notification has finished compiling, it will do two things. It will return in the list here, and it will also deliver an email to your account. And I will show you what that looks like in a moment. So, we have this new notification available, created at this moment in time, and it tells us what type it is, the ID. This is important, as when we receive our emails, this little thing will be the number you reference to know which notification that email is referring to. Time Machine, this little section here, refers to how this notification was generated, and then the number of scenes that are made available for the field selected. You'll also notice on the right we have a little white eye. If you hover over that, it will show you a breakdown, an overview of what's inside this notification. In this particular case, we have 24 Landsat images, we have a Sentinel image, and we have 2 Astra images available for the Sentinel test field within the region Billy's Farm for group Billy Anderson. Let's go ahead and click on that notification. Now what it's doing is it's going to show you for all of the fields, so a similar format on the right here, all of the regions and the fields. The difference is now inside each field it will show you a compilation of all of the images that are available, going from oldest image date to newest. The newest one, of course, being on March 12th, and it happens to be a Sentinel image. I've received a notification for imagery available. I want to do something with it. I want to analyze this data. So how do we do that? For the image dates that we are interested in, for the notification selected, we will check which scenes we want for this field, and you'll notice that again, that all too familiar green check mark highlights. Let's go ahead and click on that. A panel will pop up. If there is a cost involved for the analysis, it will be here and it will show the deduction and the remaining balance for your account. You'll notice up at the top that we have types, zones, and color table. These are the presets that we saw in our settings, and these are what will be used to process any of the imagery within the notification that you've selected. So with that, let's select Auto Analyze, and just like when we created that time machine notification, we are now requesting Satshot and iCue Manager to process all of the image dates for what we've selected in this notification. So two things will happen. You'll see that it brings us back to our notifications panel. Nothing is selected. The first thing you'll notice is that this is no longer an orange. Orange represents that the notification in question has not yet been read, has not been opened. Once it has been opened, it'll be represented in gray. And again, just like when we ran that time machine, depending on the size of the notification and the request that was made, it might take a little bit. So let's hit that Get Notification Refresh button. And so we notice now that we have another notification created for the account. This time it is a completed job rather than an imagery available. You'll notice that instead of it being generated by a time machine, it was instantly compiled at your request. And instead of it having 27 scenes in this notification, it has but one. What does the info say? Mostly the same information. The group is the same, the region is the same, and the field selected is the same, but we only have one image source and one image date for that source in this job. So let's look at it. Just like we had with our imagery available notification, we have a preview of all of the data sets now that have been generated for that field. We are not limited to doing one field. We are not limited to doing one image data at a time. You can select the entire notification if you'd like. You can select multiple image dates, or you can select the entire region, and we'll show everything in this list. Let's go back to that completed job. Great, we've got our analysis, and we're ready to take it out of the system. So what do we do next? Just like when we ran a time machine, we want to select the data sets for which we want to take out of the system. But before we do that, let's generate a PDF. Let's create a report for all of the data sets that I have selected in this completed job. You'll notice that the PDF has highlighted. We'll click on that. It will ask a couple of questions. How do you want to separate these PDFs? Group, region, field, dataset, or do not separate. In this particular case, because we have only one at every level, you will only get one PDF. But if the notification returned this completed job had multiple datasets, and you said, I want it separated by dataset, we would give you a PDF for each dataset within that notification you've selected. If we had multiple fields, and you had them selected for the datasets inside, again, same thing, all the way up the list. For the sake of this, we'll leave it at group, and these are optional as well. but we will leave these checked just for the sake of default. And once we create, it will compile a report. It will return you a link in a new pop-up panel named aptly by the thing you have selected how it wants to be separated by, PDF downloads, and it goes from green in this link box to gray. This is because if you choose to separate your PDFs, you may have a longer list here, and you'll know which ones you have downloaded locally. So let's take a look at that report. You see the very first thing in this list is our cover page. The next page is the table of contents. While it is short in this particular instance, this is an interactive table of contents, so if you click on a particular line item, you'll be able to jump to that page. And you'll see here, for the datasets we had selected to run a PDF of, we have the dataset here, we have a histogram representing that classification based on the classification presets, and we have the original preview, the original scene source for which this dataset was derived from. The final page is a breakdown of what that actual classification, the min and max values, and the number of acres within each zone represent. Let's go ahead and take this dataset out of the system. You notice that it is still selected. Let's go ahead and hit that green check mark. And now we get a pop-up panel that says, for the datasets you've got selected, how do you want to export them? We default as a polygon vector, the shapefile format. You do see though that you are not limited to that format. You have a number of polygon and point vector formats, as well as a number of raster formats available. For the sake of this, I will leave it as a shapefile format. You'll notice that if there was a cost involved at the point of export, that it would show you what it would be charged, what group it would be charged to, and the remaining balance. You'll also see under here that there is an optional check mark defaulted on to save the vector that you are exporting as to your account. Again, based on the premise that you have gone through and worked with Map Center a little bit, you'll know that once you save data for a given field, it's available to you. This will also be saved in that same list for that field data. Let's go ahead and export that data set. So now what it's doing is it's converting this analysis into a vector format, it's saving it to the count, and then it's creating a zip file for the multi-part shapefile for you that you can download locally. Let's go ahead and download that export. You'll see that we have our 4-part file. That, in a sense, is iCue Manager. What you will see over time, once you actually have your fields set to notify and your fields subscribed, is you'll have an organic list of notifications being generated. Instead of it saying time machine, it will tell you how they're compiled based on the frequency in your presets for notification delivery. Okay, well, how do we get a notification for fields we're interested in? Up in the top right here, we got a menu, and we go to notifiers. And this is where you will you see a very similar hierarchy as we had in the time machine. We will select for the given group that we're interested in. We will see all of the regions and fields associated with it. And instead of having that little radio button check mark on the right, we see a semi-opaque Wi-Fi looking symbol. For whatever we select here, you'll see that that green check mark highlights again. Let's go ahead and set these two fields to notify. And now we see that 100% of this group, these fields, are turned on for notification. The final piece within iCue Manager is the facility for field subscription. Depending on the pricing plan, the default is to subscribe your field for a reduced cost or no cost for any and all analyses that you do for your fields and for your imagery that's available for those fields. This Again, the same panel, just like we saw in Time Machine and now Notifiers. We see a list of our groups, and on the right we see the fields associated, and instead of the Wi-Fi symbol and a check mark we see a semi-opaque Satshot icon, and we will select those here. And this, when you hit that green check mark to apply for the subscription cost, if there is a cost involved on your pricing plan for subscription, it will tell you the amount charged, the remaining balance, the account that it'll be charged to, and you'll notice the only other thing is there is a drop-down menu. Who do you want to apply the charges to? If you are working with your own fields and you have an account just set up for personal use, this will not matter. You can leave it as a default as fields owner. But if you are managing a multi-level account where more than one group level has a wallet or a customer group balance, again premised on knowing a little bit about Map Center and that client base, you can choose to, instead of charging the group that that field is associated with, you can charge it directly to your account. In this particular demo, they are one and the same. So let's go ahead and subscribe fields. And what we have now done for those two fields is we have successfully set them to subscribe, which means based on the pricing plan there will be no more charge for analytics from 1 year from the date of that field's subscription. The only other thing I want to show you is what that notification will look like within your email. We will first start with when we created that time machine. We saw that it was added here in iCue Manager, but it was also sent as an email within your user's account. You'll see that we have a preview of the image dates available for the particular field in question that we requested a time machine for. This is right within the email. Depending on the size of the notification, we will show you up to 30 previews right within your email client. Otherwise, you are able to bounce out into a browser and view the entire notification the same. That's what a new image available notification looks like, but we also have a completed job notification. So what does that email look like? Just like that PDF report we ran, we see the original image source for which the dataset was derived, the dataset preview, and an histogram. Now this is just an overview, a preview, and if there are more than 30 previews within the given notification or within the email, you can bounce out and view the data in a browser as well. Outside of that, that pretty much wraps up the iCue Manager. If you have any questions regarding iCue Manager or would like to set up a time for training after viewing this video, you can please contact 701-356-4067 and ask for Anthony, and he will run you through and set up a training time for iCue Manager. Thank you for your time.